first quarter on the pick and roll, you guys were running a lot of plays where you would get the ball as a one, and then you would immediately swing it to the other side. Was that part of the game plan?
We definitely worked on that because Milwaukee's a team that likes overhelp, and our goal was to definitely dive out the pick and roll fast, and if they come out of rotations, it was just swing to the corner. So it definitely worked for us.
And when you came back out for your second rotation, you would more high weak side. When the guard would crash, you would seek in there for the layup. Was that the adjustment you guys made?
Exactly. Like I said, they overhelp, and as long as I stayed behind the defense, trying to get behind the defenders, behind those long arms, those players have, I was able to get open shots.
Welcome back to the show for part two. Before we get to you, let's get to Amir Johnson. So I talked to Amir after the game about the offensive strategy that they went with in the first and second quarter. So in the first quarter, for the last 6 minutes of that quarter, basically every single possession was a pick and roll with Amir Johnson. He would roll down the lane, they'd give him the ball, he would immediately swing the ball to somewhere else. He was kind of like running point from the middle of the post. And it was really effective, and that's when they really got that lead over Milwaukee. And I really liked what Stevens did there, and it was a nice wrinkle that they threw at Milwaukee to try to counteract what happened in the last game. And it worked really well. And then in the second quarter, when Johnson came back in, instead of going back to the same thing, which Milwaukee already had a read on, they kind of went back to the classic kind of weak side, hiding on the baseline kind of center, where he would set a pick, then he would go hide in the corner, then Evan Turner or Isaiah Thomas to drive the lane, and then his man would go help, and then Amir would be wide open to get that shot. And he got a lot of baskets, and he had 13 points in the first half off of just kind of simple plays of just running pick and rolls and hiding in the right spots and distributing from the right spots. He was so effective in the first half.
He was, and rebounding too. I mean, I think in the first quarter he had 9 and 7. So just an outstanding quarter. I think he only had 1 rebound after that. But they did. They really featured him. They set up a lot of their offense. And, if not for the foul trouble for both him and Crowder, it would have been really interesting to see how this game would have played out, because I just think once Crowder was out, I think it drew some of the attention to Johnson and took away from his effectiveness. But you're right, the way that they ran that, it was kind of an inside-out game. The offense went through him. That's when I was not sure if Isaiah Thomas was going to come through and offensively run the show, right? I wasn't so sure, but I think that was a good look, because that's what really opened everything up for the small guard lineups in the second half too. They got something different every quarter. So excellent play by Johnson, good points, good rebounds, and he's really been kind of unsung this season.
It's kind of his MO, really.
It is his MO.
He has been his whole career, yeah.
And the other thing is, over the last few weeks, I almost felt like his play was dropping off a little bit. So to see him he always comes in spurts, right? His scoring, his most of the time.
It comes between ankle injuries.
It comes between ankle injuries. Yeah. But even in a game like we saw tonight, it came in the first half. The bulk of that in the first quarter, it comes in waves like that. They talk about basketball being a game of runs, but it really is when it comes to Johnson being involved in the offense.
All right, so enough basketball talk. I want to talk podcasts. Now, when I was in high school, Celtics Stuff Live was, I think, the only Celtics podcast that I can think of. This was before the podcast app. I don't even remember where it was distributed from, but I used to listen to it on Celtics Blog. And it's actually where I ended up getting this job with CLNS Radio, and now we're partnered with Celtics Blog. So it all came full circle in the end. But you were the person I listened to that kind of inspired me to get into this game. When did you start the original Celtics Stuff Live, and how did that come to fruition?
Really, what happened was I was working a job where I was on the phone all the time, and the people I was talking to said, "Hey, have you ever done radio? You should be on radio." And I said, "Yeah, I actually did try a couple of times, and I was really bad at it." So one of the things I started doing was writing a blog, but I knew I wanted to try to do radio, but it was going to take me some practice on my own to be able to, enhance my skills and be able to talk clearly, etc. So I just came up with the idea to start recording a podcast. That started in, I want to say, January, and I worked with this guy, JB, Jim Metz. 2003?
Wow. 2003. The internet was barely even around in 2003. Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I'd only had a cell phone for 3 or 4 years at that point. I mean, that's kind of crazy, and we don't have to go that far back. I don't want to feel too old. I did go over the hill this past year, but I'll tell you, we just started recording the podcast. That was like January. We started experimenting with it, and my goal was to go to a live show by the draft. And we researched it. I put about $500 into equipment, soundboard, and a phone coupler, and then we paid for a toll-free number and routed it to the phone line. And I think we did a test show 2 weeks before the draft show, and then on draft night we had Eric Weiss, Scott Souza came on. I think we might have gotten Mike Gorman or Sean Grandy. I can't remember exactly.
This
Our
was
whole
13 years
lineup.
ago, and those are all the same people that are coming onto the
That
show
are still
now.
here
It's
now.
amazing, yeah.
We really got a lot of support right out of the gate. I mean, the technology definitely improved. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was sitting in my office and the wires weren't connecting or the audio was bad. It was frustrating, but we just kept sticking with it. And I will tell you, we got a sponsor. Let's see. So we did the draft show in June. We had a sponsor by September, and I never put another dime into it.
Oh, that's nice. Who was
Yeah.
the sponsor?
It was Garber Family Dentistry, and there were a lot of jokes on the show about in the ad. It talked about intraoral cameras, so people were always joking about our Garber Family Dentistry ad. But really,
That's way too sexual of something to put into
I think
an
it
ad,
was
yeah.
a little bit. But if Dr. Garber is watching, really, I don't know if we would have gotten this far as we did if he hadn't helped us with the ads. And then our real long-standing advertiser was Gold Rarities, and Al Pinkall had season tickets right behind Wick, about 2 rows back from Wick, and he supported the show for the bulk of it. He was year after year supported. And that's when we were able to really begin to afford to come to the games, just traveling from Maine, and to really be able to be here and network with all of the all of the writers and all of the media folks that cover the Celtics.
So fast forward to 2008, and you're covering the team. For which outlet were you covering the team for?
It was kind of a combination, Celtics Blog and Celtics Stuff Live. Celtics Stuff Live was airing on Celtics Blog. We had worked a little bit with Comcast Sportsnet, but when we decided not to broadcast on our own blog because keeping up with writing and producing the show was a lot of work, we partnered with Jeff Clark at Celtics Blog, and we began to pretty much 100% put all of our content on Celtics Blog. And so we all worked together, and as a matter of fact, when we got the credentials, it was a joint effort of Eric Weiss, Jeff Clark, and myself to be able to secure those, and they were all under the Celtics Blog name.
So what was your biggest memory from that title run, covering that?
The biggest memory was it had to be the confetti dropping, and just seeing it because, I had this whole thing about the number 17. It's my lucky number. I was born on the 17th. So, when they won on June 17th, their 17th banner, that day was just really, really special for me to watch them win. And, the year before when I had covered the team, they went on that, 20 plus game, was it 28 games losing streak with Paul Pierce out injured. And then I didn't think that they were necessarily going to honor the credentials once they had traded for Ray and traded for KG, but they did. So I'd say the other thing that kind of sticks out was working with Bombo Entertainment when they put together the movie Return to the Rafters and followed me around the garden the whole time. That was pretty exciting. That was a lot of fun. And on the way home one time, the producer from Bombo was driving, and we got pulled over. He was doing about 85 because it was so late at night. The drive to my house took so long. And so that was kind of fun. His name was Matt. And, I'd done the shot in Kennebunk. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but I recorded the post-game show in Kennebunk, the rest stop. And then on the way home, we got pulled over. He got a ticket. And
That's pretty great.
He failed to expense it.
And for anyone that remembers or doesn't remember that show, that movie, it was the kind of the official story of the Celtics championship through the eyes of some of the biggest fans and biggest supporters and media types like yourself. And
OJ's lawyer and Donnie Wahlberg.
Yeah, and Mike Munger from CLNS Radio also was on it. There's a lot of CLNS
he was probably the most featured fan.
He was
he
super
was
fan.
And if you go and watch any of the promos, he's just throwing jerseys. He had 40 jerseys in his room, and he's just going through all the jerseys as they're filming him. It's really entertaining.
Yeah, I was cleaning my old bedroom the other day, and I found my old crusty Vin Baker jersey from way back in the day. So that was a nice treasure to find.
That's probably when I started blogging. Was right around the time that Danny came on board, and they had traded for Vin Baker, and there was probably a 2.5-year conversation about how they were going to dump his salary.
Well, they figured it out eventually. It seemed to work out. So before we go here, you're starting up Celtics Stuff Live again, and it's been how many years has it been since the show went
Since
off
we
the air?
really were committed to it, probably 4 years. We did a couple of shows. I had moved to Pennsylvania, and so we did a couple of shows for a little while there. But then, probably every week like we are now, it's probably been 4 solid years.
So the show is relaunching now on CLNS Radio.
It is.
What are we going to expect?
just the same guests, you know, and I can tell you, you know, we have kind of, we've gotten a really nice reception. So our first show was Mike Gorman, and there's always this witty banter with our guests, including Sean Grandy, who we knew was going to give us a hard time for going to Gorman first. So, you know, there's a lot of fun banter on the show. And then I love, you know, I think you know this, but whenever you do a show, a lot of it's about your chemistry with your co-host. And so getting an opportunity to work with John Duke again, and for him to make the commitment as well to be doing this on a weekly basis, is really what's going to keep our brand alive and make it entertaining for the people that listen.
It's too bad we have no chemistry. I guess we'll have to end the show then. So
We'll just have to do more of them and establish chemistry.
That sounds good to me.
And then we can do the video thing, and John and I can do Face for Radio, you know, on Celtic Stuff Live.
No, your face looked pretty solid in front of these bright lights here. So we're going to end it here. I want to thank our guests who we've been wanting to have on the show for a long time. Justin
Really a
Poulin.
pleasure to be here.
So it's great to have you here. I want to thank Jeremy Karpf behind the camera. We will see you after Saturday's game. And tune in because we'll have that one for you actually on Saturday. It's nice when it's an early matinee game. So that'll do it for us here on the Garden Report on CLNS Radio and Celtics Blog, powered by Grandstand. Peace out.